Hi everyone, my name is Rachel. I work over on the What Culture Gaming channel. What do you mean you didn't know that we had a gaming channel? We're kind of a big deal. Make sure you get subscribed. Anyway, I'm here to talk about Game of Thrones today because I flipping love Game of Thrones. And now that the show is over, we know what they really meant when they said that all men must die. Well, most of them, anyway. And while the show didn't answer every question before it ended, it did give us a satisfying end to Arya Stark's kill list. Just maybe not in the way that we expected. The youngest Stark daughter started her infamous kill list very early on in the Game of Thrones series. After escaping King's Landing when King Joffrey beheaded her father, Arya Stark brandished her needle at anyone who had dared to wrong her family. Having been taught to sword dance by Syrio Forel and then trained to assassinate by the Faceless Men, Arya became a force to be reckoned with. Even the Night King couldn't stop her, as bizarre as that may seem. So what happened to her marks? Did she stick them all with the pointy end, or do they still walk the streets of Westeros somewhere, having escaped from the young Stark's wrath? Spoiler alert, it is not the latter. My name is Rach and welcome back to What Culture. This is Arya's kill list. Where are they now? Just a little note before we start, as if you needed reminding, this will cover the entire show, so please hold off if you're avoiding spoilers. Thanks guys. Number 13, Lord Beric Dondarrion. Dead. Beric led a guerrilla group known as the Brotherhood Without Banners, losing to the Hound in a trial by combat only to come back to life courtesy of Thoros of Myr and his Lord of Light, the Red God's power. The group then crossed paths with Melisandre, who paid Beric handsomely for Arya's friend Gendry. This cemented Beric and Thoros' places on Arya's kill list, though she would later remove them. Years later, Arya and Beric meet for the final time in Winterfell to face the Night King's army. The 6 times reanimated warrior not only apologised for exchanging Gendry to Melisandre, but then laid down his final life to protect Arya, so that she may then go on to kill the Night King. Beric Dondarrion is given a respectful eulogy and cremation at Winterfell, with Arya herself lighting his funeral pyre. So I guess you could say they were even. Number 12, Thoros of Myr. Dead. For the same reasons as with Beric, Arya recites Thoros' name on her kill list. Thoros was a red priest with a deep connection to his god, the Lord of Light. His initial mission was to try to convert King Robert Baratheon to his religion, a failure for which the red priestess Melisandre scolds him for. Thoros journeys with Jon Snow, Gendry, and other members of the Brotherhood Without Banners far north beyond the Wall in order to capture a White Walker. Gendry and Thoros begrudgingly make peace, despite Thoros' actions almost getting Gendry killed. Suddenly, the group happens upon a giant undead snow bear, and despite his flaming sword, Thoros receives a fatal chomp to the chest. Beric tries to cauterize the wound, but it isn't long before Thoros submits to the harsh cold and freezes to death. Number 11, Rorge. Dead. First meeting Arya alongside Jack and Hagar on their trip north, Rorge makes a terrible first impression on Arya by insulting her and then threatening her. He is later inducted into the Lannister army, and he and Biter attack Arya and the Hound, only for Biter to be killed and for Rorge to be overpowered. Arya recognizes him as the man who threatened her and laments that he was not on her list because she never knew his name. The Hound asks Rorge his name, to which he stupidly answers, writing his own name on Arya's kill list himself, and then swiftly meeting his demise as she pierces his heart with her needle. Number 10, Sir Ilyn Payne. Dead? Serving as the ever-silent King's Justice for Joffrey Baratheon and his 2 predecessors, and swinging that sword that unjustly took Eddard Stark's life, it's no surprise that Sir Ilyn Payne was on Arya's kill list. After season 2, actor Wilko Johnson was gradually phased out of the show, following a diagnosis of terminal pancreatic cancer. Despite this, he since underwent a successful operation and is now thankfully in remission. Ilyn Payne escaped Arya's needle throughout the show, the character assumedly living out his days in King's Landing as the Queen's Justice. It's safe to assume, though, that he was either roasted or crushed to death during the Battle of King's Landing, if you can even call it a battle, more like the massacre of King's Landing. Number 9. Melisandre. Dead. Melisandre secured herself a spot on Arya's list when she tried to kill Gendry. Before leaving one Baratheon richer, Arya confronts the Red Priestess, demanding she releases her future lover. Melisandre refused the youngest Stark daughter, sharing with her a prophecy predicting that the two would meet again. Lo and behold, the pair did meet again during the Battle of Winterfell. As Melisandre also prophesied though, the Red Priestess died before the dawn the morning after the battle. Removing her choker from her neck and once again revealing herself to be about 400 years old, the Red Priestess walked out into the sunrise, slowly turning into dust. Yet another blow of justice that Arya did not get the chance to pass, although she would have been fighting Sir Davos for this one, to be fair. Number 8. The Mountain. Dead. Though the Knight of the Kingsguard was exceptionally dishonourable and notoriously cruel, Sir Gregor Clegane gained lands, titles and loads of money for his critical role in Robert's rebellion at the sack of King's Landing. Confined at Harrenhal, Arya saw his cruelty firsthand when he handpicked random villagers to be tortured by his trusty sociopath and right-hand man, the Tickler. It appears as though the Mountain was born deranged. When his young brother Sandor touched his toys, the elder Clegane pushed his face into the fire. It is poetic, then, that the Mountain's own brother is the one that stands in the way of Arya's revenge. After delivering stab after stab to the hulking Goliath, the Hound pushes his brother off the Red Keep into the fires below, ending both of their lives. Number 7. The Hound. Dead. Just because Sir Sandor Clegane was following Prince Joffrey's direct orders when he killed the butcher's boy, that doesn't absolve his sin, certainly not in Arya's eyes. Well before her life was turned upside down, Arya pledged to kill the Hound for his role in killing her friend Micah on the King's Road. However, Arya has since removed the Hound's name from her list, and the pair travelled together to King's Landing to face off against the number 1 spot on her kill list. The Hound and the youngest Stark daughter have set aside their differences, and during their infiltration of King's Landing, he manages to convince Arya to abandon her lust for vengeance, pleading with her to not become what he has, and finally earning her forgiveness. Screaming angrily and finally getting back at his older brother after all these years, the Hound dies by plunging down into the fiery ruins of King's Landing, taking his monstrous brother with him. Number 6. Polliver. Dead. Clearly Polliver had a death wish and no idea who he was dealing with. The Mountain's right-hand man's terrible actions included killing Arya's friend Lomi and stealing her sword Needle. Goaded on by his cohorts at a tavern outside of Harrenhal, Polliver didn't shy away from joining the group attack on the Hound. Amidst the clashing of steel and the disturbing sound of death rattles, Arya was presented with a just and beautifully ironic opportunity to make Polliver pay for what he'd done. Mimicking the method in which he took Lomi's life, Arya, now reunited with her sword, used that pointy end to lethally stab Polliver in the neck. Number 5. Walder Frey. Dead. Understandably, Arya would want vengeance against the crusty old pervert responsible for slaughtering half of her family. Using the skills acquired from her time spent in the House of Black and White, Arya disguised herself as a kitchen maid for the opportunity to serve the treacherous Red Wedding host some humble pie. Arya allowed Frey to take a peek at the meal that he would then be missing, a shepherd's pie stuffed with pieces of his own sons, before slitting the Lord's neck ear to ear. Later, now donning Walder Frey's face, Arya called upon the remaining Freys to join in another feast. This feast proved to be the last for House Frey, as the male members of the Riverland's great house toasted their lord with poisoned wine, and Arya truly avenged the deaths of her mother, her brother, and her brother's unborn baby. Number 4. Tywin Lannister. Dead. Since the beheading of her father, Arya's kill list has been stacked with Lannisters and their supporters. Blaming the leader of the Lions for orchestrating the notorious Red Wedding, Arya had every intention of snuffing out Tywin Lannister, but was beaten to the punch by Tyrion. Finally cracking under his father's hatred and constant abuse, the youngest of the Lannister children killed his father while he was on the toilet. Delivering death via crossbow, Tyrion may have done his father a favour. he did get to die on the throne, even if it was more porcelain than iron. Number 3, Sir Meryn Trant, dead. Not only does Arya hold Sir Meryn Trant responsible for the death of her beloved instructor and swordmaster Syrio Forel, but she's also seen firsthand the depraved knight's thirst for blood. After escaping across the narrow sea and beginning her training at the House of the Many-Faced Gods, Arya happened upon a local brothel where the knighted murderer was taking much enjoyment in beating young women. Using her new skills and access to disguises, Arya donned the face of a scared young girl to get closer to the knight. Once the two were alone, the youngest Stark daughter peels off her face to reveal herself. Not that Trant could see that, however, as he had had both of his eyes stabbed out shortly before his chest and his throat. Number 2, King Joffrey Baratheon, dead. It's no surprise Arya's list began with the teen tyrant responsible for the execution of her father. It was under King Joffrey's command that Eddard Stark was beheaded for treason, after Joffrey assured Sansa that her father would survive. Watching helplessly from across the square where her father was publicly executed is where Arya's kill list began. This is without even mentioning the countless atrocities committed against her sister Sansa at the hands of this cruel young king. While Joffrey's eventual death was at the hands of Lady Olenna Tyrell, Arya would have likely approved of the Queen of Thorns method. King Joffrey Baratheon died a slow, excruciating and disturbing death that was ridiculously satisfying to fans, choking on his own wine at his own wedding, creating what has been dubbed the Purple Wedding. Number 1, Queen Cersei Lannister, dead. Cersei Lannister was a master manipulator who was willing to do whatever it takes to keep the Iron Throne. While Daenerys Targaryen was always her obvious combatant, Arya has remained under her radar. As an exceptionally cunning woman who seldom leaves problems unsolved, Cersei should have known better. The North remembers, and a Lannister always pays their debts. However, in the end, it was her own stubbornness and cruelty that led to her own death, refusing to surrender her throne to Daenerys and beheading her closest friend Melisandre right in front of the furious Dragon Queen. During the destruction of King's Landing, Cersei is crushed and buried by rubble alongside her brother and lover Jaime, and the two of them share a sad embrace as oblivion comes for them. Though it would have certainly been entertaining to see Arya Stark finally get her vengeance against Cersei, there were a great many people who wanted their own vengeance against her. And unfortunately, Arya was beaten to the punch once again. Not a single name remains on Arya's list, all of them being wiped out either by her hand or by others, and she is now free from a lifelong quest for revenge. Valor Morgulis, my dudes. All men must die, and they did. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Once again, my name has been Rach. If you want, you can follow me on Twitter at Don'tRageQuit. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe the video and all those lovely things that lovely people do. You've been awesome. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed Game of Thrones. Ghost finally got a pat. Can't get over that. Cheers, guys. We will see you in the next one. Have an awesome day.